Hello friends, and in today's video we are going to learn about chapter 6 class 9 NCERT biology, that is tissues. In the last chapter you had learned that cells make up tissues, tissues make up organs, and organ together make up body. In last chapter you had also learned about cell organelles and the functions performed by them. So now and today in this chapter we are going to learn about tissue. So what is a tissue? How many types of tissues are there? How do they perform their functions and everything? So let's start. Tissue is a group of cells having similar structure, function and origin. They work together and perform a particular function in a human body. Now we learn both about tissues in plants and tissues in animals. So to begin with, let's start with tissues in plants. In plants we have meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. Under category of meristematic tissues, we have apical meristrum, lateral meristrum and intercalary meristrum. And under the category of permanent tissues, we have simple permanent tissues and complex permanent tissues. Under simple permanent tissues, we have parenchyma, collonchyma and sclerenchyma. And under the complex permanent tissues, we have xylem and phloem. Now we'll be learning all of these in step-by-step manner. So let's start with meristematic tissues in plants. So these meristematic tissues, they keep on dividing and multiplying every moment. So firstly, we'll learn about apical meristematic tissues. These apical meristematic tissues are present in the root tip and shoot apex. That means at the tip of the roots and at the top of the shoot. That means the stem. They grow and multiply there and they increase the length of the plant. Now secondly, the lateral meristematic tissues are present in the sides of the plants. That means they're present in between the stems. They increase the girth or they increase the diameter of the plant. Now comes the intercalary meristrum. This intercalary meristematic tissues are present in nodes and internodes, as you can see here, and between the leaves, beneath the leaves, and they help the plant to grow longitudinally. They make the longitudinal growth of a plant. Actually, there are many concepts in this chapter and you might feel it a bit difficult, but everything is really simple and interesting if you give your 99% and keep it in mind. Now let's start with permanent tissues. So these permanent tissues do not divide unlike the meristematic tissues. These permanent tissues are permanent until they become the dead cells. So under permanent tissues, we'll start with simple permanent tissues in which we have collonchyma, sclerenchyma and parenchyma. And in that we'll start with parenchyma. These type of tissues have thin cell walls. They are very loosely packed cells. They have so much of intercellular spaces between them. They are mostly round and spherical in shape. In some cases, large air cavities are present in these type of tissues, because of which we call it parenchyma. And in some cases, in plants, chlorophyll is present in parenchyma type of tissue. In that case, we call this tissue chloronchyma. Its function is to store food and water. So these are the points, remember it. Now we'll move on to collonchyma type of tissue. This tissue gives flexibility to the plants and that's its main function. Cells of these tissues are elongated cells. They are thick at corners. They have very less intercellular spaces between them. They generally provide flexibility and mechanical support to the plant. Now we'll learn about sclerenchyma. These cells are dead cells. They have thick cell walls which are made up of lignin and cellulose. They have no intercellular spaces. They generally provide mechanical support and rigidity to the plant so that plant can stay erect in the hard conditions. Now we'll move on to complex permanent tissues. These type of tissues are conducting tissues and they constitute the vascular bundle in which we find xylem, phloem and cambium, which gives rise to new cells of xylem and phloem. As they are permanent tissues, they do not divide. Once they are born, they live in the plant till they become dead cells. Complex permanent tissues have two types, xylem and phloem. So first let's learn about xylem, then we'll learn about phloem. Xylem type of tissue consists of 4 cells, tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. So these tracheids and vessels are tubular structure with thick cell walls and they are dead cells. They transport water and minerals vertically and horizontally in a plant. Xylem parenchyma stores food in the plant and xylem fibers provide mechanical support to the plant. Now let's move on and learn about phloem. So the function of this phloem tissue is to transport food from leaves to other parts of the plants. It constitutes of sieve tubes, phloem fibers, sieve cells, companion cells, and phloem parenchyma. Sieve tubes are tubular cells with perforated cell walls. Phloem fibers are dead cells, and all the other cells in phloem tissue are living cells except these phloem fibers. Companion cells generally help or assist the other cells in the phloem fibers. Phloem parenchyma also stores kind of food, and sieve cells also help them in some kind. Now we have epidermis cells or epidermal tissue. This type of tissue is the outer covering or outer layer of fat cells. It covers full parts of plant from roots to fruits to seeds to leaves, flowers, stem, and everything is covered with epidermis. It secretes waxy coating to prevent the loss of water of cutin in some desert plants. It has stomata present on its surface, which performs the function of respiration, transpiration, photosynthesis, etc. This stoma is enclosed by guard cells, and then they are enclosed by subsidiary cells, as you can see in the picture. Then these epidermis type of tissues have hairs in the roots, which helps them absorbing minerals and water from deep into the soil. Dead cells of these epidermis tissues change into cork, and they have suberin in their cell walls, which make the outer layer of the tree, that brown color thick layer that you can see on the bark. And now we have come to an end of the plant tissues, and now we'll be starting with animal tissues. So in this chapter, in animal tissues, you have epithelial tissues, connective tissues, muscular tissues, and nervous tissues. So now we'll start with epithelial tissues at the first. If we want to divide the epithelial tissues according to the number of layers, then we can divide it into simple and stratified. Simple means only one layer, stratified means many layers. And if we want to divide the epithelial tissues in the types, then we have squamous epithelial, cuboidal epithelial, glandular epithelial, columnar epithelium, and ciliated epithelium. So now one by one we'll learn about all of these, and to start with, we'll start with simple squamous epithelial tissues. These are present where transportation of substances occurs, like in blood vessels or lung alveoli. These are very thin, flat, and delicate tissues, and they are of only one layer of squamous epithelium. Now we'll see the stratified squamous epithelium. So this has many layers of squamous epithelium tissues, and the best example to give for this is our skin. Any material that enters our body has to pass from at least one layer of squamous epithelial tissue. Now cuboidal epithelial. This tissue mostly gives mechanical support, and the best example where it is present is in the lining of kidney tubules or in glands. Now, in some conditions, this cuboidal epithelium, it folds inwards and forms a multicellular glands, like additional layers add onto the glands to secrete substances. In this condition, it forms a multicellular gland, and therefore it is called glandular epithelium. Now we'll see about columnar epithelial, where absorption and secretion occurs. Their columnar epithelium is present, like in the lining of intestine or in our nose, etc. And this columnar epithelium, if it has hair-like projections called cilii, then it is called ciliated epithelium, and it is present in our respiratory tract, etc. You can refer all the pictures at the side so that you can get a clear view, or you can understand it in a better way. Now let's move on to connective tissues. So these tissues are loosely packed in an intercellular matrix. That matrix can be fluid, rigid, or dense. So in that we have blood, bone, ligaments, tendons, cartilage, areolar tissue, and adipose tissue. So let's begin with bone. Bone has a fluid matrix called plasma. Plasma is made up of, or plasma contains proteins, salts, and hormones. Bone. Now bone is a framework that supports our body. Without bones, our body might not have stayed erect. So it's a very strong and non-flexible tissue. It has hard matrix composed of calcium and phosphorus. Now ligaments. Ligaments connect bone to bone. That means they're present in two bones and they hold on the two bones in such a position. It is a very elasticated tissue. Now we'll see about tendons. Tendons connect muscle to bone. That means it's present in between a muscle and a bone, and it holds them both tight in a particular position. It is a very fibrous tissue. It has great strength but it has limited flexibility. Now cartilage. The matrix of cartilage is made up of, or it contains proteins and sugars. It is a solid matrix. It smoothens the bones at joints, and it's a very soft matrix. It is present in our ears as well as our nose. Now these areolar tissues connect skin to muscles. That means they're present in between skin and muscle and hold them together. They're present also in bone marrow, blood vessels, and they fill up the space in organs. They also help the tissues to repair. Now adipose tissue. This tissue stores fat in our body and acts as an insulator. Now we have the topic of muscular tissues. These are elongated cells called muscle fibers, and these type of fibers have special type of proteins, that is contractile proteins. Under muscular tissue we have striated muscles, smooth muscles, and cardiac muscles. In the striated muscles you have light and dark striations or light and dark bands on the muscular tissues, so we call them striated muscles. They are voluntary. When we want, we can make them work. When we want, we can stop them. They are long and cylindrical in shape. They are branched and multinucleated, as you can see in the picture. Now here we have smooth muscles. These are involuntary. They are long and spindle shaped. Involuntary in the sense you can't stop them or you can't make them work as you wish. So again, they are long, spindle, unstriated. That means they don't have any light or dark striations or bands on them, and they are uninucleated. Now you have cardiac muscles who are also involuntary. You can't make them work as your wish. They will work throughout the life. Then they are cylindrical, they are unbranched, and they are uninucleated. Cardiac muscles are there in your heart because you can't stop your heart working. And now you have the last topic of nervous tissue. In this tissue, the cells are of neuron cells, or we call them nerve cells. They are very long, they are branched, as you can see in the picture, and this is because they have to fastly respond to the stimuli and stimulus. So they have to swim through the blood, and because of this feature or this body shape, they can move fast in the fluid and take messages from one part to the another. And labeling this neuron is very important. Like, it is a frequent question that comes. So the top branches of the neuron are called dendrites. Then the branches that arise from the cell body of neuron are called dendrons. And this long kind of thing that you can see here is axon, and it is covered with Schwann cells or myelin sheath. Then the spaces in between them are called as knots of Ranvier. And finally, the down part of this, as you can see here, are called axon terminals. So with this, we come to the end of our biology chapter 6, tissues, and I hope you understood all the concepts and all the main points are clear enough. So we'll meet you with the next chapter in our next video. Till then, thank you and bye.